introducing my next guest on my show. It's an absolute delight to get Paul Roberts on my show. Good day to you, Paul. How are we doing?
We're all right, thanks very much. We are by the coast, the west coast, in the sort of southwest here. It's a kind of beautiful day, and then it's rubbish.
Yeah, great British weather for you, but a nice place to be.
Yeah. Yes, it is. We're imbued, so it's lovely. Yeah.
Lovely. And you probably get asked this all the time. You are, well, remembered for being the front man from the Stranglers in the later years.
Yes, yes. Well, and so I guess now in the middle years, I kind of don't keep up with
Mm.
them unless I get some news of something that might affect me. But yeah, that's normal.
Mm. How
Go
did,
on.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, how did that come about?
Well, gosh, I've been asked that for years. So I had my own band, and I was in the office, their office, unbeknown to me. And yeah, I remember seeing posters in the office and
Mm.
so on. So I was trying to sell a band that I had going, and yeah, and then I rung one day and I spoke to this chap, and I said, yeah, blah blah. He said, oh. I think he thought I was auditioning. I had no idea because the Stranglers were, since the 70s,
Mm.
they've earlier been a high profile band. So I had no idea. And he just put me onto this guy. He said, okay, so you want to come and have a sing? And I went, not really. I said, I want you to, I want you to sell my band. I want you to manage my band. And it just went on from there,
Mm.
really. We did a few days at Nomis, a very big studio in London, and that was it. And I think I was a bit mouthy, and I
Mm.
got the job.
And during that time, it was when the Stranglers' Greatest Hits was released. Was it around the time when Sweet Smell of Success was released as a single?
That was after. That was in. That was on the previous record. That was on a record called Ten. Um, and yeah, that was. I think that was the single just prior to
Mm.
that year that I joined. Um, yeah, yeah. I can't remember what the other bit of your question was. Sorry, I've just
Yeah,
dropped out my.
so we're talking about 1990, and
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, around that time. After that song, I know where "Always the Sun," which is one of my
That's
favourites.
right.
Um,
So that was happening. Yes, that was a remix. That was just remixed, and then I think we put my vocal on it.
mm,
So that, yeah, that was exactly that time. And Hugh left, and that's when I
mm,
joined. And but we didn't say anything about it until 1990. I think it's. I guess
yeah,
I guess I'm getting on now, but yeah, we didn't kind of do anything because they did a TV show called the Word without me
mm.
that Christmas. And then we announced it in the new year, and we went on
And
to the Midlands, where I think you come from
yes,
somehow.
the West Midlands. Yes, that's where I'm
Yes,
based.
rock and roll.
And the song "Always the Sun," that's one of my favourite songs. You know, when it's a nice hot day, it's
Yeah,
quite nice to listen to lyrics, and the Sunnyside remix has a nice
yes,
twist to it.
that's right. Yeah,
I see it's a fan's favourite as well, but it's just a little bit sad that it only got to like number 30 in October 1986. Then the remix got to number 29 in January 1991.
there you go. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it was a big hit in France. I know
Mm,
that. I think it sold quite well in France. The original, I think the French embraced it more than the
mm,
British. But yeah, they're a funny bunch,
mm.
British.
Yeah, it's always it's always a fan's favourite though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, we used to get there was a whole woodblock thing going
Mm.
on with this bit of percussion in it, which was quite fun. We used to have a lot of banter. Yeah, yeah, it was. It's funny you've refreshed my memory about that whole time because that was yeah they just put that down and
Mm.
they were in a bit slight disarray there.
Yeah. And my next question, I did want to ask. Recently, we heard the passing about the drummer, and then a
Yes,
few
yeah,
years
yeah.
before Dave Greenfield. When you heard about that, was that a bombshell?
No, I don't. I think you get to a certain age when nothing's a bombshell.
Mm,
It just depends on your relationships and how you feel about the world, I guess. But Jet was really close to me.
mm,
Yeah, we took a lot of care of each other on the road,
mm,
really, and Dave. It was an interesting relationship. Obviously, a lot of personal things that nobody will ever hear or
mm,
know about, so forth. So, but Jet was very supportive, very enthusiastic, and complimentary toward me. But yeah, if I got into any problems in the business, he would step in and help. I mean, Jet was a founder member, of course, and a lot of focus really on him for keeping the band together,
mm.
and putting it together actually back then. So
And moving on now, so we've done the Stranglers, touch on that, and now you're an independent artist. What's it like, the transition from going from a frontman to a band to flying solo?
You find you need to have an extra job to get milk and bread. Apart from that, well, you're just running on you're just running on your own opinion, which I kind of tend not to do. I like to get opinions about what I'm doing, throw it around. Yeah, I mean, I did 5 albums. I think I did 5 albums until I stopped for a while. I needed to take a break from everything. There was too much going on all of the time. But it's nice to have a little bit of control about what you do, and then you live or die by your own decisions.
Mm.
But yeah, I've always had a lot of music in me, and I needed to get it out. So
And your new single's called Freedom, which is quite apt for being an independent artist. You know, you can be creative, be your own guide.
yeah, but it's more. To be fair, it's kind of weird. There's a lot of retrospective scenarios in the world at the moment. There's a lot of backwards thinking, and I hadn't written for a long time. And this, basically, the whole album, that lead track or single, however we want to put that, is yeah, it's sort of representative of my feelings about what we're up to these days.
And when you listen to the song, what styles can you hear in this track? Can you hear a bit of soft rock, a bit of blues, a bit of country, even a little bit of new wave, maybe?
Yeah, I've always drawn on all my influences, and just I guess but you very much accidentally borrow sometimes because you're in the spirit of something musical. But I've tried never to borrow. I've tried never to consciously add something that was, but definitely a mixture of artistic approaches and different bands. Yeah, man. I mean, oh God, I love so much music. So um, yeah, I don't know how you can how it gets labelled, but I use a lot of voicings and ambient stuff, and yeah, and funny you say about the blues thing, because that song in particular, I had a totally different verse for it, and then I kind of threw the towel in a bit, and I started singing this blues line, and I'm not. That's not my vibe. That's not my gig. I don't really like that, but it kind of worked. It just sat there and I went, okay, I'm happy.
And in the new single Freedom, what's the story behind it?
Okay, so very briefly, this is. I don't know if you caught the lyrics. I mean, sometimes obviously they're tricky, but actually, this is in support of fundamentally what's happening to gay rights and the abuse that the community is getting in America at the moment, and that is literally down to the politics of the day, and that's what I mean about retrospective. It's about time that we stop talking about race and stop talking about gender. Do you know what I mean? I think there are limitations on minorities, because I grew up as a minority and I was very happy that way. It didn't bother me. I didn't need to be covered by the world and society and politics. I didn't care about that. I just cared that we were allowed to do what we felt without harming anybody. And I just don't see why these guys in the States are so concerned about something that doesn't touch their lives. I don't understand it. Why they're spending so much time.
And so even in 2020s, there's still a lot of awareness and work to be done with this issue.
Oh my! It's unbelievable. I mean, it's the same with my black friends and the community. You think, why do we keep having to defend things for people? Why do we keep having to defend this right to exist on your own planet? That's about the bottom line. And there are aspects that I can see. I understand why people think a certain way. I don't think it's ever sensible to believe that nobody thinks the opposite to you in the world. But you don't have to abuse them, and you don't have to hold terrible, use terrible words against them. I just find it. So the lyrics in that song, there are kickbacks to the wall, which means Stonewall, the Stonewall Inn, and the Snake Pit Bar, where a young man almost lost his life during a police raid. So all of those things it's like this guy's waking up and going, take me down to where this all happened. And Christ, we have to go backwards, bang my head against the wall, etc., that sort of thing.
So we just talked about what the song, the kind of outline of the song's about. I also wanted to just say to my listener, not only do you sing and write, but you also record and produce. Who else have you collabed with over the years?
Oh, I very early years with the Stranglers. I got sent away to work with Paul and Malcolm and Martin from OMD, actually, and we spent some time together. Thomas Lang. There was a record we made together up in Liverpool.
Mm.
That was really cool. I did work with Martin Phipps, who's a TV writer, a fantastic soundtrack guy. Unfortunately, we didn't get that
Mm.
stuff away. Nigel Kennedy, Chenzo Townsend, who's quite a big name in the behind the scenes in the music
Mm.
game. Um, I did stuff with Ian Brody, Terry Hall. I did some albums with Lightning
Mm.
Seeds. There's quite a few other things I can't, to be fair, at the top of my head. I just done some work with Neil Taylor,
Mm.
guitar player. That was really good fun. That record might be on the album actually. But I do, yeah. I just like to get people involved,
Yeah.
really. You know.
Cool. And also, I've heard you do a little touch of acting, or have done previously in your past.
Yes. Yeah, that was kind of accidental, and it just went down really well. Yeah, um, yeah, I got on that. I really enjoyed that. I'd like to do some
Mm.
more. I got offered a lot of stuff actually, which I did turn down. It was just because of
Mm.
circumstance, really. I think that. So I'd
And
love to do more.
and I've read you've also performed as Frank Sinatra, good old Blue Eyes, at sellout concerts. How was that experience?
That was, yeah. I guess that's a label you can put in it. I wrote a show with an idea from some other people called the Great American Songbook. No big deal, but we just threw it around, and we ended up doing 54 sellout nights in London off West End. Got amazing reviews for it, and yeah, it was literally, there was no impersonation going on. It was accidental voicing, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I got really into the writers and the whole idea of the songbook, and yeah, I've written several shows for that, and always got really good
Mm.
press. You
Do you have a favourite Frank Sinatra song?
know, when you say Sinatra, I mean, sorry, I don't mean to be
Mm.
picky. It's more about the writers, but
Mm.
definitely Sinatra was a genius. He was a poet. You know, he just knew how to deliver lines, and
Mm.
he was an artist. Sorry, not a poet. He was a troubled man. You know, deeply troubled and not a very nice person. But there's a song called "That's All" that he wrote. He sang. And also there's Moonlight in Vermont and April in Paris. These three songs are
Mm.
quite stunning.
Cool.
Um,
And before we talked on air, I just wanted to ask you about fundraising, charity work. That's close to your heart, isn't it?
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
prostate cancer. Nice Purple Rain T-shirt, by the way. I can just
Thank
see
you.
the top of the top of two letters, and I recognised it. Yeah, my father died of prostate cancer in 2000, and yeah, that was difficult. And I got involved with the Prostate Cancer Society. I actually went up to the John Van Geese Centre in
Mm.
Northamptonshire. Or Nottingham, sorry, Nottinghamshire. Sorry about that,
That's right.
Midlands folks. I'm going to get shot. I'll have a goat's head on my bed in the morning. But yeah, well, I went up to a campus there. I think it was Warwick University. I'm getting really confused now. But yeah, I did a lot of Avid collection. I went around, did an acoustic tour, took the new guy from the Stranglers around with me. It kind of helped to introduce to the fans as well a little bit. But they weren't aware of stuff. You know, someone said to me up in the Firth of Moray, it took you to come and tell me about all this stuff. So yeah, I'm very keen on it. I think men need to look after themselves. I did introduce a sort of comic side to it, to the
Mm.
Prostate Society. I'd never thought that through, you know. So their warning posters were very dark and nasty, and I said, you need to lighten this up for
Mm.
men to take notes. So they did that eventually. I think they took it a little bit
Yeah,
too
yeah.
far sometimes,
And
but
Paul Roberts, I just want to ask finally, is there anything else on your bucket list that you like to tick off?
yeah, I still want to go and travel through a place called Irian Jaya, which is in Papua New Guinea, but it's very dangerous. I'm kind of getting old now, and yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do. Plus, probably still want to do a little bit of South America, and then fly to the moon and beyond.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
That's a Frank Sinatra song in itself, isn't it?
Bart Howard, 1954.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
And also, when you perform with the Stranglers, do you get to meet the fans? Do you also get to know your fans as well, the same faces in the audience?
Yeah, yeah, you get a lot of that. That's you have to get used to that very quickly.
Mm.
But I got very close with a lot of fans, and I get a lot of nice. comments. I get a lot of warmth from those people.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an up and down business. You know, you're loved and you're hated in equal measure, I guess. So.
Great. Well, thanks for the interview, and we're going to get your
Thanks, Dan.
you're welcome. We're going to get your new single on my show now. This is
Brilliant.
Freedom by Paul Roberts, and this is the Dennison Radio Show syndicated here in the UK and beyond. Thanks for joining me today, Paul.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Goodbye now.
Take care, Dan.
Yeah, take care.